I had been praying, like I didn't know. I didn't know Jesus for sure. But I was just praying, like, God, I need peace. I just need peace. It was horrible. These months of separation, this transition was horrible. We should fast forward a little bit, because then I met my husband, who was not my husband at the time. Actually, the first time I met him was at a Christmas at my mom's house. I was in overalls at Christmas with my family. My lipstick wasn't on, and if you know me, I always have lipstick on. My mom's roommate's brothers came down, and he leans over and shakes my hand, and I was like, that is the best looking man I've ever seen in my life. So I saw him, and we ended up going to play darts somewhere. And so they all ended up getting in my van, because I have a van, and riding to this bar where you could play darts and whatever. And I was trying to get his attention, and he's like 6'5", so I stood up on the stool. Hi. Like whatever. I was like 23, but he didn't really say a whole lot. And then on the way home, and he's like joking. And he's like, oh, I'm going to jump out of the car or whatever. He's just joking. And I just like grabbed his leg, and he grabbed my hand. And it was this peace in my spirit. So I get home, and because it's a brother of my mom's friend, so then I took the picture off the thing because I saw him on the corkboard. I'm like, And I took the picture, and I blew him up. I cut it and blew his picture up. And I brought it to work the next day, and I said, I met my husband. And they were like, what? Whatever. I'm like, I'm gonna marry this guy. Our first date was New Year's Eve. And then, then we started dating and everything, and neither of us were believers. So anyways, he lived in North Dakota, and I had an apartment. Then I bought a house. In 2000, I bought the house. May 25th, I closed, and I was super proud of myself because I wanted my kids to have a normal life with a backyard, and they should have everything that every other child has. But I wanted them to have the best, and it was in Sartell, and they have good school districts, and wanted that. So I bought this house, and eventually then he moved in with me. We were engaged, and we had Grace. And so we had Grace in 2000 in September. So I have this friend that I meet while I'm doing her eyebrows and I do her hair. She's a client at Regis with me, and I'm chatting with her and whatever. And then one day and we were talking about friends. She's like, I don't have any friends. I go, I don't have any friends either. And she's like, want to be my friend? I go, yes, I do. And so we made this plan to go meet up and whatever. And so we do. We hang out. We have the best. She's like my soul sister. And the thing about her is how she loves. It's radiant. Scripture says they will know you by how you love. And she loves well. There was this difference about her. And I see it clearly now. Like, of all the people I knew, nobody came to my house. Nobody came over. I lived in Foley. That's too far to come over from St. Cloud or something. She came over, and she invited me. So one day I'm like, hey, you want to hang out? I think it's a Wednesday. You want to hang out? And she's like, oh, I would love to. I'm going to church. I go, you go to church? And she says, yes. And I go, can I come? She's like, of course. So I start going to church with her. This is good stuff. This is like motivation for the week. I need to come here. This is good. So I started coming, and they were talking about Jesus. And I was like, who's Jesus? Why do they keep talking about Jesus? Why do they just talk about God? And like every week I'm raising my hand. I was just like, oh yeah, that's me. You're probably, oh yeah, you're definitely talking to me. So if I bring my kids, and they were the most loving. I came in, and they loved me. And they loved my children like nobody has ever loved my children. And they took them in their little classes, and they did it. And I remember thinking, like, for free? You want my kids for free? Because, wow, my own family doesn't think that. Like, nobody invested in my children like that. By myself, and I'm sitting by myself. I don't remember where I was sitting. I do not remember what they were talking about. But I remember God speaking to me. And he said, you are not married. You shouldn't be acting like you are. And I just start bawling. But not like you're bad, but like bawling, like, oh. I think God had a call on my life all along. And this would call me to a higher standard. So I go home and I tell Shane this, and I said, I think God chose you for me, and I think we took our own path. But if we were on his path, then I think it will go better. I don't think we'd be where we're at right now. We either need to get married or we need to break up. And he was like, okay. And so then he's just gonna think about this, It's like within a couple weeks, he said, okay, let's get married. And I want to get married in my church. He's like, oh, okay. And I said, and then we have to meet with my pastor to get married in our church. So he's like, okay. So we go to church and we meet with my pastor, and he says, do you want to come to church? He says to Shane, do you want to come to church? And he's like, well, I don't know. He's like, do you believe in God? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, okay. And so after some communicating, he said, I can't marry you because I feel like you're going in two different directions. He said, but would you be willing to come to church? And he's like, I'll think about it. He's at home and he's thinking. I can see him thinking. I can see him. I feel like you're having this wrestling match with truth. Okay, I'll give it a try. So he comes to church and he leaves crying. He said, I felt like Jesus was holding me. So I was in the arms of Jesus and he was holding me. And he had this amazing encounter with God that transformed him. So then we go again. He said, well, okay, I can marry you privately. The pastor said, I can marry you privately because we still live together at this point. And I, before this even happened, thought he needs to move out. We get there and he says that, and I said, yeah, I feel like that too. And I thought you could go live with your cousin because that's where he lived before he moved in with me. And we sat down with the kids and we said, we are not breaking up. We want to do this God's way. And we think that if we don't do this God's way, it's not going to work out. The pastor said, okay, yeah, I can marry you now because we moved separate. And then he said, but I'm not going to have you wear white. And then after a little while, I asked, I said, well, I just have a question though, and I'm totally cool with not wearing white. It's totally fine because I'm going to walk down the aisle with children. I said, but if I ask for forgiveness and I repent, and he throws it as far as the east is from the west and remembers it no more, won't he wonder why I'm not wearing white? And he's like, you can wear white. And so I wore white, and my sons walked me down the aisle, and my daughters were flower girls, and we all stood up there, and married is a really amazing, cool day.